The film opens with a shot of a young woman sitting in headphones at the top of a ski slope, gathering herself before the most important run of her life. Her name is Molly Bloom, and at this moment she ranks third among mogul skiers in the United States, one solid run away from making the Olympic team. As the camera shows the judges tallying scores and the competition spectators, Molly narrates her life story in voiceover. She has been training for this her entire life, relentlessly pushed by her father Larry, a psychologist who ran the family like a military operation. Early mornings, strict schedules, injuries. No excuses. Molly was the kind of person who never quits, and that quality came directly from him, whether she liked it or not.
I was on skis again in a year, running moguls in 18 months, and by my 20th birthday, I made the U.S. ski team.
Molly mentally prepares at the starting gate, staring straight ahead and listening to her iPod. She launches into the run, the first jump with a rotation. Perfect. But there is a problem. Visibility on the course has deteriorated, which is why pine boughs were scattered across the slope. And unfortunately, she clips one of them, detaching her left ski. She goes airborne, crashes hard, tumbles down the slope, and lies motionless in the snow. Just like that, her skiing career is over.
How's this for hubris?
I don't. Because if I reach the goals I set out for myself, then the person I become, that'll be my hero.
After recovering from her injuries, Molly faces a choice. Law school was always the plan. But instead of going straight there, she decides to take a year off and move to Los Angeles. Officially, a pause. Unofficially, an escape from her father, from his expectations, from the life that was mapped out for her before she could even decide what she wanted. In Los Angeles, a friend takes her in. Molly had almost no money at all, which is why she first worked as a babysitter, and only after saving up a bit did she get a job as a waitress at a nightclub where she gets to see the rich and fairly famous. She displays sharp wit and intelligence, convincing people to spend more. That is where she meets Dean, a real estate developer who carries himself like he is far more successful than he actually is. He offers her a job as office manager and personal assistant. The work is demeaning. Dean is rude, demanding, and treats her like she is invisible. Yet, he begins bringing Molly into organizing poker games. Every week, Dean hosts a private poker game. And not just any game. We are talking Hollywood actors, hedge fund managers, investment bankers, famous athletes, all sitting around a table with stacks of cash that most people will never see in their lifetime. Molly prepares the room, stocks and arranges the food and drinks, welcomes the players, and collects $10,000 in cash from each of them. At this point, Molly knows almost nothing about poker, and many of the rules of the game are simply unknown to her. But she watches. She studies every unfamiliar term and every player at the table, their habits, the gestures that give away their emotions, their reaction to losing. She begins to understand that this game is not really about cards. It is about psychology, power, and ego.
And the first rule was that he made all the rules.
Again.
Dad, I'm pretty tired.
And she's tired. We've been out here since 6 o'clock.
One player stands out above all the others. He is a major Hollywood star, referred to in the film only as Player X, and he will play a very significant role in Molly's life. He does not come to the game for the money. He comes to destroy other people, to humiliate them. Molly understands that keeping Player X happy is the key to keeping the entire ecosystem running and generating serious money.
A fish is a particular kind of player. A fish has money. A fish plays loose and doesn't fold a lot. A fish is good.
Molly quickly becomes an indispensable part of the whole operation. She knows who needs whiskey and who needs sparkling water. She keeps the game running without a hitch, and the players start tipping her, first hundreds, then thousands of dollars a night. This helped her save up enough money to get her own apartment, a new car, and stash $17,000 in a shoebox.
Barbara Linwood doesn't like men, Molly.
She doesn't like Dad. There's a difference.
Molly.
Over 3 years of running the games, Molly had managed to save a fairly impressive sum, specifically $56,000. She brought in new players, handled all the accounts, collected and distributed checks, but still continued working for Dean. Molly was doing an excellent job of organizing the game, and this began to seriously irritate Dean. He could see that the players were gravitating toward her, not him. One evening, Dean loses to player X, taking a financial hit. That same evening, Dean decides to confront Molly, accusing her of conspiring against him. He lashes out at her, informing her that he will no longer be paying her as his executive assistant. She tried to defend her rights, but it got her nowhere.
You're bad risk. They know it. So the debt service on your loans is close to 20%, which is crazy.
Molly was not about to accept this and wait for Dean to show her the door and take away her job. The next day, she made the decision to use all her savings to find a venue, set the table, organize a menu, prepare the drinks and cigars, and dress to impress.
I spent $17,000 on a shuffle master that was installed in the table. Faster, more reliable shuffles, less downtime between.
Late that evening, Dean finally called Molly, brazenly informing her that he was firing her, stripping her of both her assistant position and her role as game organizer. But here's the most important thing. Molly was prepared for exactly this outcome, and she walks away from that job with something far more valuable than a paycheck. She has the phone numbers of every single player, and she knows exactly how to run a game better than Dean ever could.
Lose the bitchy air. Lose the superior air. And go to the office and get your stuff and be out of there before I show up.
She began sending messages to the numbers she already had, letting everyone know that the game location had changed, one by one. Player X and all the others agree. Dean is left with nothing. Molly books a luxury hotel suite, hires her own staff, and launches her own poker operation. At this stage, she is only taking tips, which is technically legal. And the games take off almost immediately. In certain circles, word travels fast, and Molly's game swiftly becomes the most exclusive in Los Angeles. Money flows in at a scale she never imagined possible. But things begin to get complicated. Player X, sensing his own indispensability, starts pressuring Molly, demanding the stakes be raised fivefold and new players brought in. She was forced to start looking for what she called fish, and her first catch was Donnie Silverman, who had won the World Series of Poker the previous year. But after analyzing his strategy, Molly and Player X came to a mutual conclusion. Donnie Silverman would not be a tough opponent. The second fish was Brad Marion, invited on the recommendation of one of the players, and he turned out to be the worst poker player in the world, who would later lose a substantial sum of money. But who cares, as long as all our players were interested in was how much money he put on the table. Player X himself brings in a certain Harlan Eustace, a sharp, methodical player. He played very carefully, avoided risky moves, and consistently won. In other words, he was actually playing poker, while the other players at that same table were simply chasing thrills.
Harlan Eustace was excited about the surprise 40th birthday party he was throwing for his wife in 24 hours.
Rented out the whole courtyard of the Buffalo Club. There'll be about 100 people. Kumamoto oysters, smoked crabs, lobster.
But everything changed with just one hand of cards, in which one of the best players, Harlan, fell for Brad's bluff and lost. In that moment, he lost not so much money, only $40,000, but he could not get over it, lost his composure, and began losing rapidly, going deeper and deeper into debt hand after hand. By morning, all of Los Angeles knew that the unbeatable Harlan Eustace had fallen, having lost every quality that made him a great player. Everyone who had ever lost to him wanted a seat at his table, to take back what was theirs, and humiliate him in the process. After each bad hand, he kept buying back in. Molly, assuming he had the money, put it on his tab. In the final showdown, Harlan loses an enormous sum, specifically $750,000, and snaps at the dealer. He later confesses that he does not have the $1.2 million to pay Molly back. Player X reveals that he had been staking Harlan the entire time and was the very person who loaned him that $1.2 million. They eventually get into a serious argument when Player X, driven by jealousy, flies into a rage. The next night, Player X takes the game from her.
I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna get you to a meeting. We'll meet tomorrow and figure out what to do about the money.
Molly decides to move to New York and start fresh. In New York, everything starts over, but on a completely different scale. She books suites in the finest hotels in the city and builds a new game from scratch. The players in New York are different. These are not just movie stars. These are billionaires, major athletes, politicians, and Wall Street power brokers. On any given night, there could be tens of millions of dollars moving around that table. Molly runs everything with military precision, security, confidentiality, zero weak points. Her name becomes legendary in certain circles. Over 5 years, she legally earned around $5 million. But New York is also where everything starts to unravel. The pressure is relentless. The games run almost every night. Molly stops sleeping and eating properly. To keep up, she starts using drugs, at first occasionally, then regularly. Her card dealer, B, eventually convinces Molly to start taking a cut from the pot because of an incident where one of the players cheated her on top of the money owed to her by players who had long since disappeared. Molly gives in during one high-stakes game where the pot amounted to $3 million. She is now breaking the law.
$3 million. She was right. I was extending credit, big numbers.
Meanwhile, a new and far more dangerous element enters the games. One of her regular players, a man named Douglas Downey, a regular and a drunk who ends up losing $80,000 and has no money to pay. Molly uses Doug to invite major Russian poker players from Brooklyn. She succeeds. Mike Davidov, Ilya and Alexei Gershon, Shelly Habib, major players each in their own fields. All of these people were brought in by Douglas, as had been agreed. As promised, these men made the game far more interesting, frequently losing to the regular players, but most importantly, they paid in cash on the spot. Molly says there was no way to know about the dark secrets these gentlemen were carrying. What Molly does not know is that some of these new faces are connected to the Russian mob. At the height of her New York success, Pat, her driver and security, is driving her home. Molly says she valued Pat because she could open up to him without being judged, since he was not just her driver. They were friends. Pat asks a favor, to introduce her to a couple of hedge fund guys, and she agrees to meet them at the Four Seasons bar. She can immediately tell that these two men, Paul and John G., are brutal debt collectors who are pushing her to hire them. Molly turns down their offer.
I appreciate the offer, but really, I'm fine. I don't carry a big debt sheet. I feel safe.
The doorman tricks Molly into thinking there is a package for her. A knock at the door. She thinks it is a delivery. Behind the door is a brutal man who attacks her, slams her head into the wall, and takes all the money, jewelry, and gold that were in the safe. On top of all this, he threatens to kill her mother and explains that turning down Paul and John G. was a bad idea. Molly lies on the floor, bruised and swollen. A final kick to the stomach, and Molly loses consciousness as the attacker walks out with a bag full of cash. After 2 weeks of recovery, Molly decides to run one last game. A game that was supposed to last 7 days, which would have been enough to pay off all her debts and then walk away from organizing games for good. Just before leaving her apartment, her phone rings. It is Doug, trying to convince her that he would never rat her out. During the call, a message comes in on her second phone warning her to stay away. The FBI has raided her venue. Molly panics and hurriedly flees her apartment.
Did you want a hot dog?
Walking down the street, she finds an ice skating rink. She has no cash on her and has to trade her expensive gloves for a pair of skates. With each passing minute, she skates more and more aggressively, pulling off one dangerous maneuver after another. Then, a voice calls out, Bend your knees. She turns her head to the left for a split second and falls. It is her father. They sit down on a bench, and in 3 minutes, he gives her 3 years of therapy. Year 1. Larry explains that she chose poker over every other field where she could have succeeded because subconsciously she wanted to control powerful men. Year 2. Molly learns the truth about why her father was always so hard on her. It was what was needed to raise 3 remarkable achievers on a teacher's salary. Year 3. She uncovers the truth about why Larry seemed to love her brothers more than her. When she was 5 years old, she caught him cheating on her mother. Though she has no conscious memory of it, she knew subconsciously, and it caused her to act out. The Year 1 statement was just a distraction to make her angry. Now, everything falls into place. Emotions pour out. They reconcile and embrace.
No, you listen to me. All you do is cheat on me and lie to me and lie to the kids.
The moment that changed everything. Remember Brad Marion? It turns out that his entire financial fund operation was a fraud. He had been deceiving the government for years, accumulating a massive fortune in real estate. Brad made a deal with the FBI, spending hours talking with them about all sorts of topics, becoming an informant about Molly's activities, and telling the agents everything about how the underground games were run. From that moment on, the FBI quietly began building its case. 2 years pass. During that time, Molly writes a book about her experiences, mentioning some of the participants without identifying them directly. The book attracts the attention of the FBI. Early one morning, Molly is asleep in her apartment and is woken by a phone call from FBI Special Agent Tomasino. She opens the door to find 17 armed federal agents. Her accounts are frozen. This time, she is hit with formal charges including ties to organized crime. A serious sentence looms. She needs a lawyer. She walks into the office of Charlie Jaffe, one of the top criminal defense attorneys in New York. Their first meeting is tense. Jaffe has seen every kind of client walk through his door and gives nobody the benefit of the doubt up front. Molly does not ask for sympathy. She simply tells him the truth, all of it, from the very beginning. Jaffe listens, and gradually, something shifts. He begins to understand that the woman sitting across from him is not who the magazine headlines have made her out to be.
If you'd had an arrest, I'd have known.
It was bullshit.
Doug.
I told him, I'll go further, I'll go other places, but not you.
The prosecution offers Molly a deal. Name her clients, people among the most powerful in the country, and the charges go away. For most people, that would be an easy decision. But Molly refuses, not because she fears the consequences, though the threats are very real. She refuses because those people sat at her table in complete confidence. They entrusted her with their presence, their money, and their secrets. Some of them treated her badly, some never paid their debts, but she gave them her word, and that word means something to her. She will not betray them for any deal. This is the moment Jaffe stops seeing Molly as a client and starts seeing a human being. In a world where everyone is ready to betray whoever they need to in order to save themselves, she is something genuinely rare. Charlie and Molly are in the courtroom waiting for Judge Foxman to arrive. He asks her 87 questions, after which Molly fully admits her guilt. Following her plea, the judge calls the prosecution forward and speaks with them privately. Molly is confused and does not understand what is happening. The judge, having reviewed the full picture, the timeline, the evidence, the absence of any real ties to organized crime, rejects the prosecutor's sentencing recommendations and concludes that Molly Bloom poses no danger to society and did not collude with the mob. The sentence, 200 hours of community service, 1 year of probation, and a $200,000 fine. No prison, case closed.
This court sentences you to 200 hours of community service, 1 year of supervised probation, drug testing, and a $200,000 fine.
The final scene of the film is a flashback. We are back on that mountain. Back in 2002, Molly is lying in the snow after the crash, unconscious, bleeding, surrounded by a crowd. Then she opens her eyes. Her father is standing over her. She looks around at the crowd, takes a breath, and stands back up. Over this image, we hear her voice one last time. I learned something encouraging. I am very hard to kill.